So right now, you guys are a gathering of citizens. I like that phrase. And then we're going to treat this like a board reorganization meeting. So I'll open the meeting, and then I will ask for any nominations for a chair for this committee. We'll go through that process, and I'll need a lot of help from the people that do that kind of process. Once a chair is elected, then that chair will take over the meeting. The only thing that we have scheduled tonight is at 7:45, you all will have the opportunity to interview a possible consultant for your committee. My goal for tonight would be for you guys to speak with the consultant, possibly make a decision on the consultant, and to set some calendar dates. Does anybody have any questions before we move into trying to elect a chair? Please.
I don't have a question, I just have a suggestion.
I love them.
That we should go around the room and introduce ourselves.
That's a really
at the
good
beginning. I mean, whenever you're ready.
With the gathering
Because
of
you're starting-
citizens?
I just think it's really important that since we're not all the same
That's a really
faces,
good idea.
it's important.
All right, I'm Bill Antone. I'm the superintendent of the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union.
I'm Kelly Warner, citizen of Newfane.
Ken McFadden, citizen of Newfane.
Sherry Gray, citizen of Brookline.
Erin Zargo, citizen of Brooklyn.
Emily Long, representing Newfane.
Joe Winrich, representing Townsend.
Heidi Russ, representing Townsend.
Chris Jers, representing Townsend.
Carolyn Partridge, representing Wyndham.
Auntie Rupert, representing Wyndham.
Pam Tweedy, representing Jamaica.
Fantastic. Just as a review, we have 15 members on this committee, so there are 15 votes, but it is a public meeting, and we encourage the public to come, and we encourage other board members to come and interested citizens. So
Should we introduce members of the public?
I think we should introduce members of the public. Thank you, Ken.
Should we call them honorary members of the committee?
Ladies
I'm sure
first.
they don't want that.
Nancy Dyke, Wyndham.
Jerry Dyke, Wyndham.
Bob Tebow, Leland Gray Principal.
Hi, Bob.
All right, so the Robert's Rules of Order people, help me out here. But I will now entertain a nomination for the chair of this study committee. Is that correct? That sound
Yes, that's
good?
correct.
Okay. Would anyone like to offer a nomination?
Well, I'll offer one if no one else.
Okay.
He's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna nominate Joe. Winner, just
I'd second that.
because, why not?
Thank
Okay,
you
so we
much.
have a nomination, and we
Just so you know, he didn't know I was gonna.
have a second, and then it's discussion or other
Oh, no,
nominations?
we actually open it for other nominations.
Okay, all right. So we have a nomination and a second. Are there
Actually,
any
just
other
clarity,
nominations?
we don't need a second on nominations.
You don't, okay. So we have a nomination.
Can he decline? I'm just
Yes,
wondering.
actually, he can. I've declined many times.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. And I'm
See, I
looking
could
at him
nominate Emily.
slow.
She would decline really
Okay, so
fast.
we have a nomination. Would anybody else like to offer up
We
a
open up
nomination?
the floor for other nominations.
And you can nominate yourself, just in case somebody doesn't want me to do this. Because
Can I?
Please. Well, is discussion allowed now?
I think if there's no other nominations,
Yeah.
we can probably, I just wanted, this isn't really discussion about, I just think that it's really important that we understand what the role of chair is. So.
The role of chair.
So I will tell you what I know from the consultant's work currently with the other study committee is that the chair and the consultant work very tightly to make sure that this group has a mission and an end goal and stays on task and directs the work of the consultant, will be the direct contact to the consultant, and will take advice from the committee about how to create that direction. But the chair is the driving force to get this committee to its end goal, is what I know. Does anybody have anything else to add about what that would be?
Well, having chaired a red committee before, I'll just say, to adding to that, and I think it's important to mention it because Joe's sitting here on the edge of being elected, I think. It's really a lot about organization and being available. That, honestly, it's being available for emailing and, you know, speaking to the, organizing, keeping all of us together, because it's really hard to, it's one thing chairing a, hey Drew, it's one thing chairing a board, a school board, but it's different when you're chairing a committee that's of multiple towns. So it can be really challenging to keep all of us moving forward.
We have two members of our committee, of our gathering of citizens that have joined us this evening. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Drew Hamilton of Jamaica.
Ann Reynolds, Jamaica.
Thank you very much. So we are at the stage right now where we have asked for nominations. We have received one nomination for Mr. Joe Winrich of the city of Townsend. And the floor is open for any other nominations. So, is there any discussion?
I'll move that nominations be closed.
And the clerk better cast one ballot.
Thanks, Drew. We don't have a clerk yet.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing?
Yeah.
All right, and then do I ask for a vote, an oral vote, or?
Yes.
Yep.
Since there's only one, we can do it.
Okay. All those in favor of Joe Winrich being the chair of this study committee, please signify the affirmative by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Besides Joe.
I get to now hand this off to Mr.
Do you have
Thank
an
you, Joe.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Somebody has to do this
Thank you
work.
all. Do you
Here's your
have an
court.
agenda?
Do you have correspondence?
Oh my goodness. Now, I don't even know what officers of this thing we would need.
Technically, you only have to have a chair.
We only have to have a chair.
Okay.
You are your own legal entity under
Right, I knew
706B. So I do not believe you are stopped from having a vice chair or clerk. It doesn't address it. The law is silent on that.
I don't think we need any other officers unless somebody wants to nominate one. I think we're fine.
I nominate Joe for vice chair also.
Stop it! I decline and nominate Ken McFadden.
He'll decline.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Okay, so,
Joe be here for me.
that out of the way, we do have that one email that Bucky Pelsu sent. Did anybody not get it?
Oh my God.
Yeah?
I did get it.
You did get it?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at this list and because I was sitting at the Newfane meeting when Kelly and I were appointed. And I'm just curious whether we found another Newfane representative?
Not at this
Because it says
point.
chair was going to appoint, okay. And then it looks like Jamaica has two open?
No,
Or not?
Jamaica, this was printed before.
Oh, okay.
So we have those
So
three
it's,
individuals.
so
are
it's
all
just that
Jamaican.
it's just that they weren't listed on here.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Gotcha. All right, I was just
I will
looking at the
provide the
list.
chair with an update.
Great. And
Yes.
if you don't mind. I'm not trying to dominate, but emails, it's really important to make sure everybody is clear on their emails here, because if this is not your correct email or the one you want to use for this, please let Joe know, because it's really hard when people don't have communication coming to them.
Yeah, and just from experience, if you use an email that you actually check once in a while, I regularly, so that if there is something that comes up or that, people want to reach you, there may very well be members of the public that want to reach you, so you should use an email address that, I assume these will be published. So it should be something that you actually check and respond to.
Yes.
Is this your last?
You should point this out. For under Brookline, Aaron's last name is Z-A-R-G-O.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't even know if I have this list.
It's on the very
Next-
back.
I got it.
Yeah,
Last
next
page
to
in
the
your
last or
folder.
last page.
What's your last spelling?
C-A-R-G-O.
Jesus.
I thought I already said the G.
Thank you.
C-A-R-G-O. Okay, it's Drew. Okay. Now, is this the other, this is the other
That's
committee,
the other
right?
committee.
Okay, okay. So now,
Bill, can we get packets? Or folders?
No.
Fine, we'll leave right now.
Gotta keep them in the room, give them folded.
have a question? Oh, okay, thank you. So the way this, tonight we'll meet a possible consultant. We can talk to him about the process. I worked with John, it's John Everett. I
Yes.
worked with him. He was the consultant for this, for the Red Study Committee when we did the Red Study Committee. So he's pretty familiar with the towns and the situation and even some of the people probably. And, he would probably be, there would be less of a learning curve with John for doing this, and he was very knowledgeable about the statute and the procedure, and he can probably answer just about any question we might have, or we'll know where to go find the answer for it. So tonight, I imagine, once we can meet with John and maybe discuss whether or not we'd like to move forward with him as a consultant or interview some others or see what else is out there. Do we have any sense, Bill, of what might be out there for other consultants?
I have a sense that there's very small pool.
Okay. And John is working with the other group, the Dover, Wyndham, Wardsboro group,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Wordsboro.
I'm sorry, Marlboro, Dover, Wardsboro.
Yes.
I shouldn't do that off the top of my head. He's working with them, so it may be very useful to have the consultant that, one consultant working within the SU on both of those groups, merger study committees.
Well, there's a lot of information that would be.
That will cross.
Yeah.
And then we'll just need to figure out dates. Ultimately, the goal for this timetable to present something to voters would be town meeting 2017, right?
Correct.
That's kind of up against the wire because it has to be done by July of 2017.
Yeah, and John can give us a little bit more detail regardless of whether you guys want him to be your consultant or not, you can ask him questions tonight. We're gonna pay him for being here, so.
Right.
And he can be a little bit more detailed, but you can imagine that if you're gonna want a vote March 8th, you're gonna want to warn that vote in early February.
Right.
You're gonna wanna have public engagement in at least the month of February. You're gonna need to send your articles of agreement up to the State Board of Education at least once, possibly twice, because you may send something to them, and people that were on the Red Committee probably have a lot better experience with this, but they'll give feedback, and then you'll want to have an opportunity to have some time to do some work.
Twice last time.
Right.
You do have up until June 30th of 2017 to have a vote in all 5 of the towns, once the Articles of Agreement have been agreed by this committee and approved by the State Board of Education. So you don't have to do it on town meeting day, but if your timeline is to make it at town meeting day, it appears that you're gonna wanna get something crafted end of November, beginning of December.
So that just gives you an idea of how many, and we can push it out if we need to. Like Bill said, we have till the end of June, but town meeting day is pretty convenient. And if it's possible to put it in by then, it makes sense. We'd probably get our best voter turnout then too. But we'll probably have to spend some time figuring out dates that we can meet, both with John and all of us, in the coming months.
I will tell you that John has just made arrangements for September for the other group. So it might be a valuable exercise prior to you're talking with John to look at, what would the goals of the committee be? Are you looking at meeting twice a month? Are you looking at certain days? Maybe you got some schedules from the sports that can inform this or not. It might be some time well spent. I do want to introduce a non-voting member, but a
Interested party.
from the chair of Townsend. If you could just introduce yourself.
Al Clausen, Townsend Board Chair.
So, we have the correspondence from Bucky where he talks about John, but then he talks about where we want to determine a set of outcomes for our students and our schools. And Bill was just saying the same thing. I mean, are there things that committee members have already just, that they can articulate that we want to pay particular attention to as we begin this process? Anyone?
The numbers.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, specifically, what sharing resources is going to look like. Is it going to be staffing? Personally, I was curious as to whether students would have the option between the schools and within the district we're forming as to whether they can choose to go to a different school than the town they're in. And what other sharing resources we could find that was advantageous to all the schools.
Okay. I know in the red, we looked at there was nothing that prohibited that. Say a student who lived, their parents lived in Townsend, but they commuted through Newfane and they wanted to send them to Newbrook. There was nothing that prevented that from us doing that in the red. But to sort of keep continuity, it ended up being more in the red study that kids were gonna pretty much stay in the town that they could. We can always alter that. It depends on what makes the most sense for the kids, what gives them the best shot at best education.
Does it cost more money or less money depending on how that would work? I mean, if we're forming this district, then money would be in one pot, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Ken.
I believe if we had, the problem would be with transportation. Because if somebody from, say, Jamaica wanted to go to Townsend, the schedule might not run,
Right, certainly there's some issues because of
the bus.
our schools start at, elementary schools start at different times.
Right.
So that would definitely be a
And you can't run 4 buses from each town to every town.
No, but the
Just-
buses
yeah.
from all those towns come to Leland and Gray at that time in the morning.
Right.
Not, so could they pick up and bring kids to Townsend and then pick up Townsend as they go
Yes.
back out to these other towns?
Right, I mean, those are logistic things that could definitely be worked out, and again, if we're all one board, it's a little easier to say, to maybe manipulate start times and make that work if it's a priority for within, for the towns to have that flexibility, then those details can be worked out. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Since one of the stated goals of Act 46 is to improve educational opportunity for kids, I would like to make sure that we, any suggestions or any outcomes that we come up with need to basically be measured by that benchmark.
Okay.
Also, that schools have more of a certain thing and feel that it is important to them. For example, like us, we have guidance in the building more than any other elementary school. We feel that's important for our students. We don't want to lose that if we go to I'll use that cliche that everybody uses from the state, that cookie cutter approach, and just say, well, everybody has, X amount of guidance in the 2 days of guidance in the building or whatever. Because, you know what I mean? It's like, why, if we're gonna.
Right, and I think some of these things, we did come up with a list when we were deciding whether or not we were gonna have a study committee. There was this large list of what we valued by town, and there were some very similar values, and then we went through and ranked them and all of that. And I think it would probably be Does that exist electronically somewhere, Bill? Do you know? It's under the red? No, this is when we were deciding about the Act 46 study committee, we had the will we form the study committee.
It should be under WCSU, WCSU.
Is that in here?
Exploration document that weighs the priorities. It kind of nicely consolidates the 5 major priorities.
They were discussed at WCSU meetings, so I would assume they have to be somewhere in those notes.
I don't know how I found them. It appeared in my folder.
Yeah, I have that. That is not in your packet.
Thank you, the exploratory committee report.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on page 4 of that, and it
Is
talks
that
about.
put in your packet?
Yes.
You are so good.
It's on page 4 of that, and it talks about, strengthens educational opportunities throughout the region, and then there are a number of subpoints underneath that, and then, point 2, point 3, point 4, and point 5 go down there, and then underneath that is the weighting that you talked about that we did as an exploratory committee, where people felt the most, which one of those points people felt was the most important component of the whole merger discussion. So obviously we'll keep that in mind as we move forward as a study committee. I think this can certainly be a fluid document. We can add and subtract from this list as we need to, and we can even discuss change, this was the committee's weighting. Our weighting as a study committee may turn out to be different. But I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Is there anything else that ends at the top of anybody's mind here? Bill?
In the packet next to you there is a copy of the contract that I signed for you to have a consultant. And it has the lists of kind of the scope of work that might be valuable for your committee to take a look at before Mr. Everett comes at 7:45 in case anybody has any questions. It's on both sides, so it's just one copy.
It's just a one-page document?
Yeah.
It's in this one. There's probably extras in there, so just, if you leave them at the end, we'll pick them up. Yeah, this gives a pretty good idea of what we can expect from the consultant. It also, the district is pledging to support us in gathering data and numbers and all of that.
Yes.
Well, hopefully there won't be too much of that analysis.
No, but I mean, as Ken
some.
will point out, it's a challenge with making predictions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just curious about if we go forward, I'm looking at you, Bill, because I don't think Joe has the answer to this necessarily, but if we move forward with hiring John Everett as the consultant, there was talk at one point during our exploratory, at some point, we had conversations around whether we would try to work mutually with any other side-by-sides that were happening within our SU, and whether we would coordinate some of the timeline and all that to save some travel, which saves money.
Yeah.
So was there any conversation about that with the
So
other?
the other study committee
Yeah.
is interested to see what this study committee ends up doing. I think if this study committee decides on hiring the same consultant, then I believe that the larger exploratory committee was interested in finding those opportunities not only to save money on travel and
Right.
timing, but also when something is being gathered for these 5 towns, it makes a lot of sense to gather the same thing for the other 3
Right.
towns.
Right.
So it can make it more efficient, and we can stretch out the dollars, because you do have a $20,000 grant for both sides. I would suspect that if this committee decides that Mr. Everett is the consultant that you would like, that would be a chair consultant discussion to try to make that work. But I think that would be highly responsible on a very tight timeline.
Do we, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, do we know if that's happened in other SUs around the state? Are we aware of anything?
John wasn't specific when the other group asked him. He didn't have an answer at that time. He might tonight.
Thank you.
And you have the meeting scheduled for September already for the other group.
They're
with
meeting
John.
on the 8th, September 8th,
Okay. It's Thursday.
Thursday. They've found that Thursdays work for that group. And I believe they're meeting the 8th and the 22nd, but John can confirm. They definitely locked down the 8th. They're
Okay.
trying to meet twice a month.
Okay. But, given the amount of work we have to do in the relatively short time frame, twice a month doesn't sound unreasonable. I don't know.
Our Newbrook meeting is on the 8th.
Yeah, that's our board meeting.
Okay. Very good to know.
Are you suggesting September 8th?
Well, that's when,
The other board?
that's when the
meeting?
other
Yeah.
group is meeting with John Everett.
I'll be
and-
out of state that day.
If we, I mean, we could probably skip the 8th, but like we were talking, if we're discussing working, trying to arrange it so that he only makes one trip down here to save a little money, and we're working with essentially the other half of a side-by-side in here, we have very similar interests. We'll probably make similar requests for data. It makes sense to try and meet together as much as
Absolutely.
possible.
I completely
Um,
agree.
Knowing that there's 5 towns feeding into this group, we in the past have always tried to meet Wednesdays because we all have meetings on nights that aren't Wednesday. Well, no, Wednesday and Friday. So was there any conversation about that at the other committee? Because I know they don't meet Wednesdays either. None of
They,
them.
not that I remember.
Okay.
I don't think they were avoiding that. I just think they were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen in this group. There's definitely an interest in synergy.
Right, that's good.
And we can do that. I mean, we may or may not be able to make the second September meeting with them, and then we can certainly discuss, like you said, chair,
Yeah, I think that's going to be the,
consultant about Wednesdays and trying to scrounge up those Wednesday meetings.
Or at least come up with dates here.
Right.
See if we can coordinate.
Right.
I don't know what other people.
yeah, I would just encourage you guys to be comfortable that if the consultant comes in here in 10 minutes, that you guys either have some questions you want to ask him or ask him to explain certain things. And then I would encourage you to ask him to leave and then have a discussion about whether this person is someone you want. And
Right.
I think it's valuable to use that time wisely, is my suggestion.
I'm happy to let anybody ask John anything they want to ask him. Like I said, I worked with him for 2.5, 3 years in the Red Study Committee. I'm very comfortable with him. I think he'll be all right. But anything anybody wants to ask him, go for it. Whether it's a sort of statutory detail or a philosophical question, he should be able to field them all.
The other study committee found it very valuable for him to kind of flesh out
Yeah,
what he
we're
does.
gonna ask.
What has he done? He's done this before,
Yeah.
he's done it with other groups, he's worked with the Red Study here, he's worked with other just to get an idea of the scope of what can be real for you guys, things that you can ask of him to do. He coordinates with my office, he's very respectful of not burdening me in particular, or the business manager in particular, or the special ed director, but very specific questions. And then he kind of fleshes that information out to kind of create issue briefs, which are allowed to have real high-level discussions because you get the information prior, you can digest it, and then it makes it, at least in the 3 meetings he's been involved with so far, very productive. Very productive.
As long as we have information a few days beforehand, always helps instead of
That,
getting,
that seems to be his MO.
Yeah.
he was really, I think he was pretty good about that,
He was.
if I remember
Very good
correctly.
about that.
And of course, your office is gonna provide like, the finance, like Lori Garland and
Yes.
numbers and that kind of stuff.
We will provide the services that we can to help you be as well informed as possible, but we can't predict the future.
Just out of curiosity, is there anyone else on the, you know, any other possibilities, or is this the only?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, yeah, what was the answer? The
No, it's
pool
okay,
is
'cause
pretty
Annie
shallow?
wasn't here.
Yeah.
The pool is very slim.
Yes.
If this committee wasn't comfortable, I would go back to the VSBA Act 46 Implementation Coordinator, Mr. O'Gorman. This was his first recommendation, and I could ask for another recommendation. I didn't specifically ask how wide the pool was, but the indication was,
Might have more time.
I might have, yes.
Just for clarity, 2 things. One is
He's the chair.
I'm trying to just say to you. You said it was a VSBA, it's actually Act 46.
It's
which
the
is
Act 46 implementation
org-
project.
Right, which is 3 organizations.
Correct.
That's number one.
This-
The other thing that I think is really important that we all understand is that we are not required to use the implementation project if somebody has we're unhappy and we have a consultant locally. I mean, that's happened
Yeah.
all across the state, you know. You're not required to go through the
Yeah.
implementation project. There's a lot of resources there, but it doesn't mean we have to use them. So if we're not happy, there's other avenues. Just might not be easy to find something.
Right.
Okay, everybody up to speed? Next item.
There is no.
There is no next item.
Where is he?
He'll be here in 5 minutes.
Do
5
we
minutes.
have
All right, we got
questions
5 minutes
that
of
we
Phil's
wanna
time.
ask
Might
him
want to
then?
generate some questions.
I think we should brainstorm some questions we want to ask him, or there's no reason for him to be here if we're just going.
I figured I'd just ask him to talk about, you know, what he's done and how this process works and sort of give us an overview and a little bit of background about, you know, how he can help us through this process. And that probably, I would imagine that will answer a lot of questions that people
And
would have
spark some
and
others.
probably spark some more. You know, other than that one big one, sort of, you know, I don't have anything specific on this that I can think of, but certainly if you've got one, get them. Al's thinking of them, I can tell. Good. Trip him up.
You may want to look at your September calendar that could work for you guys, just as a activity, until, you guys have a very large
Nice if
committee,
that
it's
was
very
just an activity.
challenging, you know, to,
This is gonna be the hardest thing,
yeah.
because we won't all be able to make it.
It took, what, 4 tries to get this meeting?
It did. This,
Right.
this meeting was
We have to accept the fact that we won't all
highly
make it to all
difficult.
meetings.
Yeah, this meeting is tough.
I would recommend that we coordinate with the other committee to do it on Wednesday nights.
Well, they're already scheduled for the 8th. this
Yeah, they're
time,
scheduled
so-
for the 8th and the 22nd, but I would, if we
So
hire
maybe
John,
we can work the second one,
I would definitely go back to them and say, let's look at Wednesdays.
maybe the 21st instead of the 22nd.
So
We can
Joe-
ask them to move it, yes.
Joe, Wyndham has figured out that we can't come on the 8th or the 14th. Or the Wednesday, you know, we can't come on the second Wednesdays, and that's never good for.
What about the
ONCHED.
21st?
We could come the 21st or the 28th.
No, the 28th you probably won't come because that's the WCSU retreat.
All right,
7th?
yep,
Can you do the 7th?
The
Yeah.
7th?
no, the 7th?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna be out of state, Archie's gonna be out of the country.
Okay, so 21st would be the only one in September, close to the 22nd.
Well, I mean, on Wednesday.
Gave up my head.
But are there other, because I mean, we're not all school board members, we're community members too.
Right,
So
right.
there may be other dates that, my guess is we're never gonna find time when we're all gonna be here.
You will never
As long as we can get representation from every community.
Our meeting is what, 6:30?
6:30 our meeting starts, but usually I'm there with pay orders in a half an hour.
At 6 o'clock.
Could you do it at 5:30 and do a 7 o'clock meeting here?
Yeah, we could, couldn't we?
I'm just tossing it.
I'd have to coordinate with your office and change everything and send everything. with my-
One, he's gonna be in March, so I mean, I'm just, you know, it doesn't really make a difference when your first meeting is.
I guess I can be flexible.
Get it all done in one
Just
night.
tossing things out.
Are we
It would be,
planning now
it would be
to
good,
continue
well,
having
it would be
these
good
meetings?
if you could get it all done in
Video?
one
It
night.
would be, I'd love it.
Every single one will be filmed,
Okay,
yeah. The most meetings that I predict you guys are gonna have in this, you know, year is gonna be between 10 and 14. It's $100 a meeting. The video is fantastic for residents and citizens to be able to understand what's going on. That's $1,400 out of a $20,000
Well, and given
grant.
the size of the committee, if people can't make it, because we're
Yes.
never gonna have a night where it's like, oh, look, everyone's free.
And they're actually quite interesting.
You can watch them, you know, it helps to watch and see what happened while you weren't here.
And so every town has to be represented at every meeting.
That is not correct. You guys are
Okay.
now a legal entity.
Good.
You are a 706B study committee.
Well,
So
we need a
everything that
quorum.
happens with a school board is the exact same thing. You need a quorum. That's exactly right.
How's a quorum defined with the
8
5
people.
towns? And
It's only defined by the 15.
it's only defined by the, so
You need
So
8.
The members.
we need 8 members.
You are no longer, I mean, you may represent your
Oh, okay.
town,
Right,
but
right,
you
right.
are all equal under the,
Okay, so 8 people's a quorum and we're good.
right, but obviously you want to make
15
sure.
voices uniting as
If,
one.
if Carolyn can't make
Oh,
it
you
from
should have
Wyndham,
been
you don't want to
share.
host a meeting if Beth or Anja can't make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be
You
nice
gotta be strategic about
Nice to have
how you do these
representation from
things.
each community.
Right.
So is the 21st out, or have we moved off the date thing? Is the 21st possible, or no?
They have scheduled the meeting for the 22nd, so it may not be possible for John.
that. We've
Oh, I thought the 22nd was
I
confirmed.
believe that's correct.
Okay. I mean, if enough of us could make the 21st, we can go and propose the 21st as opposed to the 22nd to have a joint meeting with the other side of the side by side as well as John. If that, I mean, I could do the 21st. Who could do the 21st? Raise your hand if you could do the 21st.
The 21st?
Yes. All right.
Oh,
Everyone could do the 21st. All
It's my
right.
birthday, but I'll give it up.
Yeah, I read my, yeah, bring cupcakes.
Okay. So
Bring cupcakes, so.
if we hire John, we can approach the other half of the side by side about changing to the 21st. And we could ask him tonight if he would be available to switch to the 21st. Heck, maybe he wants to come and meet the 21st and the 22nd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
So just a couple thoughts. One, do you want to wait till the 21st? 21st is great,
No.
but you may want to look for a time before that.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to match the other group.
Right.
Two, if 21st is the next time you guys meet, tonight would be really valuable to think about what you want happening before the 21st. And as Ken pointed out, what you want happening before the 15th, so that information is provided to you, so that you're really productive prior to the 21st. And, you know, if the consultant is what you want tonight, he could maybe lead that tonight,
Mm-hmm.
facilitate that.
And now,
Oh, perfect.
Hi, John.
on that note, speaking of timing, come on up.
Okay.
Come on in.
Nice to see
Welcome
you.
back.
Thank you.
Don't you feel like you've done this before?
Yeah, really.
Hello.
How how are you?
So,
We've elected Joe as chair.
yeah, they elected the chair.
All right,
I couldn't get under the table fast enough, thank you. So, we've been just sitting here talking about some dates and some other things, but now that you're here, if you could just, I mean, I worked with you on the Red Committee, I know some of the background and stuff, but if you could just talk to us a little bit about, you know, how you can help us with this, you know, some of the past experiences, some of maybe the other Act 46 stuff that you've done, you know, give us an idea of how it's gonna work, just procedurally, and sort of as we work through as we do the work of the committee. And then that'll probably give us a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Thanks.
So I'm John Everett, Vermont educator for many, many years, recovering superintendent at this point. So I've been retired for several years and have been interested in just keeping my hand in what's going on in Vermont, especially around governance issues. And so I worked with this study committee 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago? Yeah. Worked with several others, Addison Central, the Middlebury area. Did a study in the Barnard area about elementary schools. So I've done several of those studies. This is really my first Act 46 study committee. This one and the one with your neighbors to the north? South. Yeah. Over there. Many times I've been down here, I'm still getting used to where everything is. I ended up on a road coming down tonight that I don't remember ever going on before.
That'll happen.
I was.
It
must be on the side. Yeah. So anyway, but a lot of Act 46, it's very similar to the other kinds of studies that I've worked on as far as the requirements. I will say that the Agency of Education seems much better organized for the work that's going on now than they have been in the past. Donna Russo-Savage, she's a woman who works at the agency, who used to be a legislative counsel for in the State House. Really seems to have taken this project and really made sense out of a lot of what committees have to do. So let me tell you what the final steps are. If you end up deciding you want to move forward on some kind of a unified district, there's a report that needs to be written, and there's a form to fill out that has a lot of the same things the report has, but put into place. So part of what I can help you with is getting that material together. But now the process, you need to decide first, is this going to benefit students? Is this really going to make a difference for the young people here? And any other reasons you might want to do it financially. From 3 years ago, a lot of the financial benefits of unification had already been accomplished in this district. So when we did this last time, there weren't a lot of financial gains. I'm not sure. I would have to look at that again to see what that would be. One of the things I can help you with is looking at some of the finances to see what would be the impact if you combined as far as budgets and the incentives, that sort of thing. Last time we met with the principals and got them to help us identify what the benefits for students would be. And that was I found that a very valuable piece of information. We're doing it again with the other study for those schools. And so that might be something else that we could do. I consider the report and everything your report. So what I try to do is draft things and give them to you. Or if people have interest in drafting things on their own, I don't usually find that to be the case, but that would be fine with me. So I'm here to support you, to help you look for information about questions you may have. I'm not here in any way with an agenda of my own. Is that kind of what you're?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Does that give anyone, follow-up questions? Sure.
Hi.
I'm Carolyn Partridge from Wyndham. I'm glad to hear what you just said because I read recently in Vermont Digger a story about Addison Northeast and how they, the title of the story is Dissenters on Local Act 46 Panel Say Incentives Led to Haste. And there were two dissenters, one of whom I used to serve with in the legislature, and one of the complaints was that, and it says, but authors of the minority report say that the consultant, Andrew Pond, was focused on one path forward. He had a strong belief that this is the right path and advised the committee often not to vary from the preferred structure as laid out in the legislation, as well as to tailor articles of agreement as little as possible away from the boilerplate language. So I'm glad to hear that you would consider other, other structures.
Yeah, even the way you put that last sentence makes
I
me
was-
a little nervous.
I was
in that
reading.
I'm
was
not
bad-
the, it's,
bad
I
grammar,
would,
but-
I would help you consider other structures if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is your work.
Right.
Not mine.
Yeah, so I was just quoting from the
Yeah,
article there,
okay.
and that was one of the complaints. So I'm glad to hear that you are open to other ideas.
One on this end of the world? Emily?
Since no one's asking, I'm gonna ask one question.
Sure.
But in the Act 153 study that you worked with us with, one of the, I don't know if I should call it frustrating pieces, but it was a challenge for us, and that was to be able to identify specifics around improving student opportunities for kids, because we felt that while maybe there would be efficiencies to be had by sharing staff or things like that, that the study committee itself couldn't really say what the board, the newly elected board, if this whole proposal passed, would actually implement. So it was a very challenging time for us to be able to actually grab onto these are the ways we can improve opportunities, making sure that all children have at least equal opportunity in the same things, or whether we would be able to say, now we can have foreign language starting in first grade. We couldn't really say those things. So could you sort of speak to that?
Well, number one, it's a very difficult task. Because you're not implementing any new system. So at the end of the day, you're trying to put together a proposal that makes sense and would outline what opportunities a new board could implement. So, it's kind of like you're the visioning group, but once there's an election, it's out of your hands. I mean, if the citizens pass this, they'll pass it with a new board, and that's the group that makes the decision. All you can do is look at, are there savings in the budget that would free up resources to add programs like you're talking about? I was actually reading that section of that report the other day, and one of the things that was really important in that report, at least that I thought was an important thing, was the notion that a unified district would help create a culture of teachers across all the schools for sharing and responding to different student populations, to have that flexibility. But as far as getting down and saying, you're being able to say, we're going to be able to do this, this, and this, you really can't. All you can really talk about, in my opinion, I'll write what you want to say, but in my opinion, all you can really say is, here are possibilities, here are some things that could happen, within the resources that we're now spending. Or if the next board wanted to add resources, or if they use the incentives to add things. I mean, there's different things you could speculate about. But the actual decision-making of how this would run is out of your hands. Now, most of you probably, from the board will probably be made up of people from this group, so, you know.
So basically, the bottom line is, once we send this proposal up there, and say we decide to become one unified district, all 5 towns, the bottom line is, all we accomplish is setting one budget, the same cost for every pupil in every district, right? And a new hierarchy to govern it.
And the.
Whoever winds up running, getting elected, and so on and so forth. So therefore, doesn't matter if we say we want foreign language through, you know, every school to have a foreign language. It's not, doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So all we're doing is making a recommendation.
Yeah, I'd have to do some research to see if,
Because that's my.
I just can't imagine you could write an article that the citizens would vote on that said every kid had foreign language. I just.
Because my understanding is, it doesn't matter what we do anyway, once a new entity is formed, these are just guidelines and they go right out the window once a new board comes in.
Well, well, we wrote some things, for instance, on the last one about closing a school. And there was a whole process that was put in there about closing a school. So there are some things, but I would say getting into the weeds about what the educational program would be, would really be beyond the scope. That's my understanding. Now, I could do some more research and check that out, but I don't.
So can you, just for the people that weren't on the red, like the document, the Articles of Agreement, the actual document that we produced, that's the Articles of Agreement, can you just like sort of give us an overview of what that actually puts out?
Sure.
Sorry.
Or the statutory requirements.
Or even the statutory.
It says, you know, who was the group that put this together? What towns are coming together? What, and I'm just trying to do this from memory, but I can pull it up if you really wanted to get detail of it. But anyway, who's doing it? What grades are going to be served? What the structure of the school board would be? In our case, I believe in the articles we had as a separate one, how the supervisor union governance would need to change to accommodate equal representation. Yep. Was that in the article, or did we have separate? Okay.
It wasn't.
We had the benefit to students laid out. I think we had a couple of pages of that. We had the financial implications. We had all the data of this town is spending this much per student. This is the population trend of this town, elementary school. This is the population trend of the high school. This is the population trend of, I don't know if we had free and reduced lunch figures in there.
Did.
Tried to describe the area of covered by all the boards. Can't remember what else is in there.
Go ahead.
So, sort of relating to what Ken was saying, the Articles of Agreement, I mean, Ken was basically saying I think you were saying, once the committee's done and we move on, basically we throw all that away. But actually, the Articles of Agreement have they have a legal requirement for the new board to operate.
Yes.
So I think that's really important for us to understand what the Articles of Agreement do, not what they contain specifically, but what do they symbolize? What do they mean once we leave?
Yeah, they set the guidelines for how this next district is going to operate. But yes,
They're very
I'm sorry.
important.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think it's really
that is the
clear that
process.
we can-
That's the. Their citizens are voting on how they're going to do business and provide elementary education. I mean, education, K-12, pre-K-12 education.
So it would be sort of out of character for a new board then to take the list of the benefits to students and decide that those were no longer benefits and throw them out the window and do whatever they pleased.
I would
Really,
expect so, yeah.
the articles are really sort of the road, the pathway that the citizens are agreeing is the path that the new board should take.
That's right.
There's not teeth necessarily to that, but it is, it is.
It
way
is the
it's meant
direction
to
they're
be
expected
laid
to
out.
follow. That's,
Okay.
because that's what the citizens are voting, this is the
Right.
path we want you to follow.
Okay.
But how is that determined? By voting, like the structure of the board? And I mean, how would you ensure that these things are not thrown out?
I think it's almost like any other ensuring the people that want a certain thing need to run and be on that board.
Right?
You need to maintain control over.
Yeah, I just, yeah, it might be hard to, I think, you know, the landscape changes so quickly, economic factors come into play. It would be hard to sort of set that and know the future, to set it in stone. But,
Yes, in any detail.
and
That's why
then,
this is about the
I mean, you can't guarantee we
structure.
wouldn't close a school. I mean, if that's what we decide that we're not gonna close the school, I don't think we could guarantee that.
No, but you can put a process in place.
There's a second
Yeah,
vote
but you would put
involved.
the process in place that would ensure this is fairly vetted or
Yes.
decided upon.
In our packet, in the Vermont statutes, it says a plan for the first year of the school district's operation. And then the board of the school district shall make all subsequent decisions. So we plan the first year, and then they can decide, oh, well, this didn't work, and then tweak it from there, but they have to follow the plan for the first year. Is that correct?
But, I mean, we can research that further, but the plan,
We did that.
but it wasn't like a budget.
No, it wasn't a
It wasn't
budget.
like a plan, like a school board would really make a plan. What you'll do is you'll put a group in operation to develop that.
It even says curriculum. I mean, curriculum assigned to the staff. So is that something that we come up with in the articles, in this report?
You know, I'm gonna have to do more research, but I do not think that's gonna be your job here.
Okay.
Maybe Bill, maybe you know more about
No,
that
no, I
than I
just
do.
made sure that I provided everybody with the law.
Yeah, so, because there's nothing in the required pieces that are very detailed on curriculum.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so it would probably be really helpful for this group to have examples of articles of agreement from a full continuum. Ones that have gone through kind of the preferred structure, and then ones that are kind of coming online now, so that this group can see some, examples of how other communities have addressed the law that Pam's talking about.
And it's very easy, again, the agency has put together all the proposals that have been passed that include all the information that you're talking about. And I can certainly send you a link to all that.
I think some of us need the Cliff Notes version. It's, seriously, but we're busy.
I could put something together, that would be a way I could help you. I could
Yeah.
put something like that together.
That'd be great.
When you say
So it does use the.
other, well, I have a question at some point, so.
Go ahead.
Time to get there, okay.
You have a question?
This notion of other than preferred structure, I'm curious to know what's going on in your conversations that make you even ask about that, given that you're all together in a pre-K-12 system.
Oh,
So, I'm
that
just-
has not been discussed, that's just purely me.
Oh, okay.
I'm just basing it based on time.
Okay.
So the preferred structures are the only ones that had a timeline that would be in existence now.
Okay.
I think there are a couple that, went over the line. I'm just saying, as they come online,
Right.
it would just be helpful
Sure.
as new examples came to just, and that's purely me. That is no feedback from the committee.
And you're thinking about implementation 2019, or that hasn't been discussed either?
No, that hasn't.
Okay, sorry, getting ahead of you.
You have another question?
Well, I think it's probably important if we don't all understand, these 5 towns coming together to form a study committee potentially could come out of this with a preferred structure, right? I mean, the 5
Could be,
towns.
yeah.
Well, I think it's important, because there may be people sitting here who don't know what that means, you know?
Oh, okay.
And that we might not be, a lot of people confusing preferred structure with the accelerated process that
Okay,
happened.
okay.
And so I don't know whether we are or not, but I think it's important that we all understand what it means.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I'm a newbie. Can you
Right.
explain preferred and that
That's
whole?
exactly what I mean.
Yeah, because Vermont is organized the school district organized in so many different ways, and the legislature is, I would say, very sensitive to the desire of many towns to maintain school choice. They've said, you need to, preferred structure means you're talking about your pre-K to 12 kids, and that every town in this unified structure is doing it the same way. So one preferred structure is that everybody's providing pre-K through 12 by having schools. Another structure is we're providing, well, it would really be K through 12 in this case, through school choice. Or some may say we're doing K through 6 education in our local schools, and then 7 through 12 are in choice. So a preferred structure is that meets one of those kinds of groupings where everybody's providing education to students in the same way.
Within the district that we will be forming.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So for instance, the neighbors are looking at a structure that might be K to 6 with choice 7 through 12. So they can't be part of your group because they do it differently.
Okay.
So the concept is that there's a difference in equity between students who have choice and students who have to go to a local school. We're said that we're providing local public school here. And so the law is saying that's not an equitable way to do this. Within the same district.
Gotcha.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
More questions, comments?
I have a question. Do you remember, Wyndham only participated in the Red Study Committee for about 12 months. And I don't really quite remember exactly why the Red Study dissolved, why it actually failed and didn't go through with it. Would that be wise to think about? I mean, since we're doing a similar study right now, to think this failed because of that, so we're not making similar mistakes, and there were people who did not participate in the Red Study who are now on the boards or who are now in the study group, so it would be, if you have a recollection, to just quickly.
I can answer that. The Red Study Committee went to the point of sending articles up, and when the committee felt that there wasn't gonna be public support for those articles, we withdrew them. The biggest difference now is there's a lot more consequence now for not taking this to its end. I mean, we have to take this to an end. If the end is we're already educating our children as well as we possibly can, we write that report and we try and get the state to buy that. If that's not truly the case, then there's another way that we come together to educate our children in some better fashion, and there are incentives built around some of those, and it goes forward. But you know, we have statutorily mandated duty to finish this.
Yeah.
Certainly.
The end of that 3-year process ended at the same time the legislature was having a conversation, a pretty strong conversation around 883. And it had passed in the House. And there were a lot of questions that the communities were asking of our study committee that left us unable to answer because we didn't know if we were going to fit in with what looked like was going to possibly pass in the legislature. And so we basically made a decision as a study committee to not disband, and we in fact never have disbanded, we met and said we were gonna wait and see what was gonna happen in the legislature. And at the time, you know, I don't think it had failed in the Senate yet then, but I can't remember the exact timing of it. But we stopped because it looked like the legislature was going to sort of move forward with something that we didn't know how we were gonna fit into it. And then we just never met again, because when 883 failed, the conversation around something new started up almost immediately. So that's where it ended. It's just sort of really petered out because of what was happening at the state level more than anything.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
One thing that is a little bit of a shocker in the whole thing right now is the timeline. Because if you think about, if you do want to meet the decision before July 1 of this next year, a decision from the communities, getting that vote, your voters to have a chance to look at it, and if you decide you want that done in March, then that's, you need to have things to the state board before that, so that this becomes a very aggressive process. So just to sort of keep that on the table.
Right.
So that's why we need to think about September meeting.
Right. Right. Anybody else have any questions?
No, I'd like to have a discussion
I was gonna say,
amongst the
we'll-
committee.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, are we just having him step out? Is that what it is, and wait? Because
So are we gonna go into executive session
That's
for a
what I'm asking.
contractual issue?
Oh. I guess we could. Do we need to?
Not as far as I'm concerned, but I'll
Right.
leave, and you can have your discussion any way you want it.
John?
my question is that if I don't want to hold John up waiting, but if we do end up hiring John for this, it'd be very helpful to find out. I'm thinking of calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be really helpful to
So-
get calendar dates figured out.
Are you available on Wednesday nights?
I'm just trying to be, I'm just trying to be
Yeah,
efficient.
no, no, no,
Wednesday nights are actually
My
good.
suggestion
Good.
would be
Wednesday
to
nights are
go
good.
into
Good
executive
night.
session for
Have
a
him wait.
contractual issue and be efficient about it. And if you realize the discussion is not going to be efficient, I would then come out of executive session, see if there's a decision, and
So
inform
we-
John
All right.
something at that point.
Are we comfortable asking him to wait?
I'm happy to wait.
Okay,
I'm
thank
happy to
you.
wait.
That's very nice of you.
All right, so,
Because if we do hire him, we need dates.
yeah, we do. So who wants to make the motion?
I'll make the motion that we contract,
No.
No, go into
Executive
executive
session.
that we go into executive session.
I'll second that.
All right.
Contractual.
Okay, so then Wade.
It's been moved and
Carolyn
seconded to go
did.
into executive session
Carolyn
to
seconded.
discuss a contractual
Carolyn
matter. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're in. Everybody out.
You want Bill to say?
So-
Yeah,
How
you
many
can say.
people have to
So
stay
you have
here?
me and you have two, like Al Clausen. Do you want him in or do you want him out?
He
Well, he
Already
volunteered
left.
to
he
leave.
left, he went.
Tammy
And
said he's
then,
leaving.
and is everybody else, and then on
Community
Anja,
members should probably go.
we should, you know,
They're fine.
invite her
Yeah,
in,
board members,
They're
whatever.
fine.
right?
Yeah,
Right, I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah.
your red light's up now.
She should feel invited.
Turn that microphone off.
Welcome back. Have a chair.
Okay. You know, I'm gonna sit over there, I can see everybody.
Yeah, it's
That's right.
awkward.
That's right. This table
Well,
configuration,
yeah,
by
I
the
would
way,
like
has
to make
got
a suggestion.
change.
When
We've
these-
gotta change this table configuration. for
Absolutely,
future
absolutely.
meetings.
I like to see
I
the
don't like
people
it.
that I'm conferring with, and it's kind of hard if you
Yeah,
sit on
I
this
know.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we actually got you.
I'm not sure what the better one is. All right, so you were gonna make a motion?
Sure.
You gotta make it now, Sherry, because the
Oh,
camera's back.
I move that we retain John Everett as a consultant for our Act 46 study committee.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to retain John as our Act 46 consultant. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Beautiful. John, you
Thank
got a
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
So let's talk dates.
He says Wednesdays are good for him.
It may not be good for everybody.
Everybody get out your calendar. Now, do you have a second, I know Bill told us you're meeting with the other group on the 8th of September.
Yes.
Do you have another date?
They're meeting the second and fourth Thursdays.
Okay. Huh.
Thursdays are normal.
Thursdays are tough for this group.
Newfane and Jamaica
Newfane and Jamaica both have board meetings that
And
night.
we have board meetings.
Well, I wasn't pushing, I'm just saying.
No, I'm just,
Oh.
that's,
You have one that, on the 8th.
Tuesdays.
that's a little bit harder for us, which is why we were asking about Wednesdays.
Yeah.
She's locked me in for the winter school season.
How's the 21st look for you? Can do back-to-backs.
21st is fine.
Okay.
So let's maybe go to move.
Well, I'll go to, who's the chair of the other group?
Rich.
I guessed, but. I can ask Rich if they can move theirs to the 21st, and we can save you a trip.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how I would meet with both, same night.
Because we have
Yeah.
very different
Right.
types that we're looking at, right? I mean,
Right, yeah, you can.
At
Well,
some
they're gonna
point-
have a separate meeting than you,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
So-
How does that work?
I was saying Thursdays, so you could avoid Thursdays,
Yeah.
Okay.
because I'm tied up with them on Thursdays.
I think there was talk about,
So you're suggesting it would not be beneficial to meet with both groups on the same day?
Or even as we get further in the process, since we're really two halves of a
Or
side
would that
by
be
side.
something that might
it
happen
would-
later down in the process?
Later, probably with maybe just 2 or 3 people from each committee getting together to, well, it's just speculating.
Okay.
I think your work is, the work of this group is gonna be enough for you.
I think they're just referring to one meeting after the other on the same night, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay.
To avoid travel, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, I appreciate that, but you'd have to start at 4 in the afternoon or something.
Yeah, that might prove to be problematic.
I mean, that'd be great for me, but
Good context.
I can't imagine it would work for you.
We were thinking of starting at 11 PM.
Yeah.
Do we have, I mean, we were talking about doing something earlier in the month of September too, but I guess that first week, like the 14th is out too, you say, Wyndham?
Yes.
How about the 15th?
I can't do Thursdays.
Thursdays don't work at all for Ancha. She plays music.
And
Thursdays
they don't
sometimes
work
work for me.
Yeah, they don't work for
Wyndham
me.
has one representative, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys only have the one actual representative, so.
That's correct.
If it doesn't work for, I mean, it's a courtesy to have it work for everybody, but
Right.
you're the actual rep, so.
Right.
As long as it works for you, we might
What
actually.
date are you talking about?
The 15th,
Days.
to try and get something happening before the 21st of September. It would be nice, I mean, we're gonna leave almost a month gap, waiting till the 21st. It would be nice to get something happening before that, so that we can, we can have some time to ask John for some information, and we can start working on, start doing our work.
Here's a suggestion, that if you had a group of say, one person from each, or just maybe a couple of people to say, between now and when we meet again, John, here are the things, here's the information we'd really like to put together.
We are. We've
Uh,
had that
I'm not
You haven't even
we're
had that.
Far enough down,
Okay.
I mean, this is the first time this group has met. ever.
Okay. Oh.
So,
Okay.
we were an exploratory committee, this is actually the first
Okay. And then
study
that's-
committee meeting.
yeah.
So Joe, getting back to your question, you are correct that we have one representative, and the representative is me, but Ancha is the alternate. And if this goes into January, Ancha is going to be the person. And so, you know, I think it asks a lot of one person to be the only rep.
Certainly.
I mean, other towns have more than one rep, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But other towns will also, I'm sure, not have all of their reps at every meeting. Like
Yep.
Jamaica they lost Drew early on to a beeper.
Yeah.
Townsend picked up Brud at the very end of the meeting.
Right.
So just having one of your members not able to make one meeting probably shouldn't prevent us from actually considering that night.
Yeah, but Thursdays are always bad for Antia.
All right, well, we can stay away from Thursdays,
Wednesdays work,
but the
except for
14th
the
is
2nd.
wrong. The 14th is bad for you, the 7th
Yeah.
is bad for you.
The
That's
20
the first two Wednesdays
the
before
20
the 21st.
The 21st.
I just
yeah.
want to fit something in before the 21st if
Okay.
we possibly can.
All
And then
right.
we can stick with Wednesdays instead of Thursdays. But if we can get the 15th, or even,
Okay, the 15th's okay, unless. I'm
how's
forgetting
everybody else
something.
on the 15th?
I won't be able to make it, but we have 4 reps from Townsend, so it's
Yeah,
not.
I can't make it.
Who can't make it?
I
Hold your hand.
Okay, who can't make the 15th? How-
Can't or
The
can?
Thursday, the 15th, cannot.
I can make it.
I
So
cannot.
we'd be down 2,
And I
and you can't, right, we'd be down 3. But no town is totally unrepresented, and probably we'll have Bucky. John, can you make the 15th? Oh, thank goodness. Oh, good, we're set for the 15th, John goes, well, I've got a previous commitment.
There was one night during the week that didn't work with Bucky, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, the rest of us can make them.
Was
Well-
it in his email?
He doesn't put it in his email. And then going forward from that, can we, at this point, do something similar to the other group where we say Wednesdays work for the majority of us, or Wednesdays work for most of us? Can we take, the second and fourth Wednesdays?
No.
Could you do not the
First and
second,
third.
the first, the third, or the fourth would work for me, but not the second of every month?
First and the third.
First and third works for me.
The third doesn't work for me.
I can work with the first and
I
third.
chair another board that night.
Wednesdays?
But I would be happy to abdicate.
I have a friend coming
My schedule's gonna be hit or miss depending on coaching responsibilities and everything else.
The first and the fourth Wednesdays, folks?
Yep.
Sure. So that'll be back to back most of the time. You'll meet the fourth. and-
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it doesn't give any
work time.
workspace in between.
I don't know what you do on third, or third, whatever you
Let's see if I can move that. Maybe. Let's try for first and third Wednesdays. I can try and move that, because first and fourth doesn't make sense.
So first and
Is there a time that we're meeting and a place firstly?
I would say 7 here, right?
So is that
the fifth,
John, do those like looking forward, do those dates seem to work for you?
the fifth of October,
Okay.
and the 19th.
So every first and third Wednesday
After the 22nd.
after the 21st.
fifth, I won't.
So we would be October 5th and 19th, November 2nd and 16th, December 7th and 21st, and, that's far enough out.
Bucky didn't say
Wait, what are we
any date.
saying?
What?
Bucky didn't say any date.
9,
Yeah, Bucky didn't say any dates for
He's
that.
available.
10,
We're fine.
5, and 10, 19, right? What are we talking about?
Works for me.
All right, so
Motion to
we've,
adjourn?
The December 7th date, I won't be able to do that.
okay.
First and 15th.
But there are 5 Wednesdays in November.
We run into the Thanksgiving holiday, though, the 23rd.
Yeah, the
Wednesday
23rd
would
would
be
be
gone,
crazy.
too.
So you're doing the,
You also have a budget
you're
meeting.
doing the 1st and 15th
On the
in
30th.
November?
But the 16th,
Wait, oh, Wednesday?
November is this.
Wednesday.
Don't we have budget meetings?
second
Second
and
and
the
16th.
Previously scheduled?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then December, bless you.
And then December what?
December would be the 7th.
Okay.
So, Joe,
We can
Yeah.
deal
the
with that.
16th
Will
and
you be
30th of
sending out
November,
an email with
WCSU
dates?
budget meeting scheduled.
The 16th and the 30th?
That's what I have. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but
Oh, I haven't put that in November?
November.
Did we put that in our calendar already? I didn't think we did it.
I don't have that in mind, but, well, let's pencil it in and then take a look.
Adjust.
As long as we put
Unless
the
Bill
next
can
couple
figure.
of months.
We've got 2 in September
We're done
and
by
2 in October. And then we can make sure, we can firm up the November and December dates in those meetings. So John, for the next meeting, you and I can get together and put together some sort of an agenda. We can get it out to people so that they'll have time to think and bring, you know, opinions and materials, and we can get anything that they need to get out. Anything else before we go home? John, Bill, Emily?
Have you guys committed to the next date?
Yes,
Okay.
we are
I just want to
committed.
make sure it's in the minutes.
15th and the
November
21st.
15th and November 20th.
September.
I'm sorry, September 15th and September 21st.
Oh, we're doing both.
Yes.
Yes.
And those are the 2 that you have.
Well, and then
And
the
you're gonna
2
go from there.
October,
No, we've already done the 2 in October.
the October
as
1st
Go
and
ahead.
3rd Wednesdays.
That's
And
the
what are
5th
those dates?
well.
The 5th and the 19th.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
and the 19th.
And did you do November?
Not yet.
So you
Not
got
yet.
4 dates that we're gonna put in the minutes
Can we put
that
this-
everybody knows about,
Can we put the second one?
right?
You could do the 2nd of November.
Well,
couldn't
the
you?
November 16th, Brad says
Right, but the
there's a
second-
WCSU.
No, but I'm
You
saying
could
the
do the
second we
second.
could schedule.
No,
That's
you
cute.
can keep
Oh,
going.
November 2nd? We
Yeah.
can say November 2nd.
You're available for that one,
Right.
John.
Yes.
So now we have 5 days.
We have 5 meetings.
Okay, I just wanna make sure they're in the minutes, everybody's good.
You want those in the minutes?
I want those in the minutes.
Oh, really?
September 15th, September 21st, October 5th, October 19th,
And November 2nd.
November 2nd at 7 PM at Leland and Gregson. Is that the plan?
That
Yep.
is the
Yes.
plan, sir.
So far.
Okay.
Do we have a charge for next meeting, that's something that we need to do to be
I think
productive?
that's what we just.
John and I will put together an agenda and get it out to everybody with materials and sort of, I mean,
One of the things that's being discussed over here is the idea of taking the Act 46 Exploratory Committee report and mixing it with a red and seeing what jives right off the
yeah,
bat.
I mean, we can go
What
through
does
some
it?
of the old red documents and show you what that looks like. I think we can probably pull together some of the articles of agreement from the Act 46 things that have moved forward, so that we can see what those look like. And then definitely take a look at the exploratory committee report that talks about, you know, the reasons that this makes sense to go to the next step of a study committee and what it does for our students and for our taxpayers.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question about, I want to make sure we're being really out there and transparent. We are going to commit to having Brattleboro Community Television filming our meetings, I hope.
Yes.
And we will have somebody take our minutes at every meeting.
Somebody.
Yeah,
Somebody,
okay. I just think it's really important that we're able to, you know, share with the public what we're doing.
And I would just add to that, Emily, at the top of the WCSU website, we've added a new
Good.
header link that goes directly to all your work. So the minutes go in there for both study committees. So any community member can go there, you can see the videos, you can see the minutes. As we start preparing work, we'll be able to create a folder there for work. It's modeled after the work that you guys did on the red, so we're just, but right on the top of the homepage. Great.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. We're out.